Okay, Baruch Hashem, welcome back to another week after Shavuos. Post Shavuos, hope everyone had a wonderful Shavuos. Baruch Hashem, we had a very nice Shavuos here in Eretz Yisrael. And B'ezras Hashem, the brachas of Shavuos, of receiving of the Torah, of the unity, and also the brachas of just, as it says there's a beautiful quote from the Orach Chaim, the commentary on the Torah. He says that if people would only know the beauty of Torah, they'd go crazy for it, because the Torah includes all the goodness that there is in the world. We should be blessed with a wonderful year, with all the brachas from Torah, and we should only know good things. And so we should have a good Shabbos, and Bezrat Hashem, a good week ahead, and we should only hear more good news from everybody. And with that, wishing everyone a wonderful Shabbos, and over to our Suchard.
Thanks, Naftali. It's so good to be after Shavuot. I'm sure everybody had a good Shavuot. And like we spoke about, I think.
Sorry, Abba, can you just pull your computer down just a little bit, because it just seems to be blocking it.
Okay. Is
Yeah, that's
that
good.
better?
That's good. That's good.
If I look straight at the computer, well, I don't see myself because it's on the right-hand side, but I just look straight.
We see you.
Right. So, and on Shavuot, really, I had just the one thought. Always like to mention it again, that it is a verse in the Torah in Pirkei Avot. It says in the 6th chapter, it says, "Oy lohem lebriot, way vey, like oy vey, to the creatures, the people of the world, me'elbonish or Torah, that they shame the Torah, right? They don't use it, they don't practice it, they don't understand what they're listening. Like Naftali mentioned it, in the same Orach Chaim, that everything is in Torah. And we say that if a person prays and on that day, on the day of receiving the Torah. So what happened on that day, Rashi explains that everybody who had any type of ailment was healed, and it's life is, like we said, it is not like a long road, but it's like a Ferris wheel, comes back, like it says in Ecclesiastes, in Koheles. This is the time to live, a time to die, a time to build, a time to break, right? A time to laugh, a time to be sad. So that period comes every single day, the 365 days. And then there was the day of giving of the Torah. It's like a lighthouse where it's the main light is there, and it gives light right into all the centuries. And our purpose of the 49 days of counting is to improve ourselves, to come closer to the lighthouse, because you're getting the same light. It's the same light as Matan Torah. And it says, B'chol Yom, every day Hashem is Machadesh, Ma'aser Breshit. He like renews Ma'aser Breshit. He is giving the Torah, and it's coming with a clean like a clean engine that it's there also. So I hope that everybody had such a feeling, please God, afterwards, just a little bit of improvement. So we've this week's Parsha is really in Parshas Nosa. There's a few main topics. One of them maybe we'll have a little bit of time. That's the Birkas Kahanim at the end. But the one we wanted to mention is the two first main topics, and that's the Parsha of the Nazir. That's why we mentioned over here the power of the Nazir. Nazir. The word Nazir has different meanings to it, the same sort of meaning, but the Nazir is a crown, a crown that you put on your head. And what's the crown made of? We'll explain it tonight. Very interesting. And Nazir, the word Nazoru Acher, Nazor means to turn back. Also means going back, turning away, right? Turning away from things which is incorrect. And then, but just before that parsha is the parsha of a sota. And the sota is someone who is not faithful to a husband, and he brings her, and if he suspects something, he brings her to the Kohen, and they try to get her to say the emes, the truth, that she shouldn't die, and but if she wants to keep lying, then she has to drink from the water and the dust that she has to drink from the water in the Beis Hamikdash, and they take the scroll with Hashem's name and they blot it out into that water, and she drinks it. And if she's pure, then things go good for her. But if she had done wrong, then unfortunately she can lose her life. So those are the two parshiot. Very interesting on the side that in one of the books we wrote that when do these things happen, and where a person can go astray. So there can be going astray where a person is just very naughty, doing the wrong things. Sometimes a person can be driven to it. And driven to it is that a person can be married to a husband who doesn't honor his wife, doesn't give her the things that she needs. In fact, we heard just recently, there's quite a famous couple that got married in the Jewish world, and she went home after 1 year, and they had a baby, and then she went home. She's living back with her parents, and she refuses to go back to him, and she's demanding a get. And it comes out what she said was that he begrudged her everything. He didn't give her money. He wasn't kind with her. Sometimes people have that mentality. A person gets married, and he's in charge. He domineers the home to such an extent that the poor woman is stifled. But we also heard that he's not so well. So sometimes a person does it out of not being well, and somehow that maybe the parents didn't teach him the art of Gemilas Kosodim, of being kind, right? There's a famous Gemara, my son Martin mentioned to me that there's the two of the famous people in the Talmud was Rabbi and Rava. And I think Rava is the one that lived till the age of 60, and Rabbi lived till the age of 40. And the Gemara says, why did the one have an extra 20 years? Because they practiced Gemilas Kasonim, to be kind, right? Sometimes there are people that just don't know how to be kind. They take and don't like to give. But of course, I'm sure that they both did both learning Torah and Gemilas Kasonim. But seems that I think it was Rava who excelled, and therefore he lived an extra 20 years. It's very interesting. So they say one of the Forshim, forgot when he mentioned the name, one of the Forshim asks that even, let's say it's Rabbi who only lived to 40 years, but while his chaver was busy with learning Torah and doing kindness, therefore he got extra years. But so he didn't go swimming, was probably carried learning. For him, he felt that that was more important, right? So, of course, he was a kind, good person, but let's say he didn't go looking for it, right? So therefore, his Torah was complete Torah, whilst the other was Torah with Gemidas Kosolim. And I just to add, I was just thinking that, and of course, Rava learned, right? And so does it mean that he put down the Gemara and went around looking, doing mitzvahs, going collecting or doing things like that, say for poor people or whatever he did. But could be that he kept it, he's learning, but he had to learn more. In other words, had to keep up with his chaver. At the same time, it diminished kasodim. So he did kindness, practiced kindness, but maybe he had to put in an extra hour at night to learn. Maybe he had to, it was more difficult. Anyway, that's an important thing, that if a man lands up taking his wife to the Kohen, and because he's suspicious that she's doing things wrong, right? So it could be it's his fault, right? It could be it's her fault, straight. So, or could be it's looked like it, and thank God they went home together, and it says they even had better, finer children, good children, etc. But there's a famous Gemara, and if anybody has my very first book that I was open to write, and on righteous paths, and that was 50 years ago. So I was asked my son, him to read it to me. Sometimes the readings are a little slow, so he does me a favor and reminded me of a very good word that we said there. And I thought that's a beautiful idea. And it says, the Gemara says, Loma, why is the juxtaposition? In other words, why are the two parshas together? First, the portion dealing with this unchaste woman, and then secondly, with the Nazir, right? And the Nazir, we're going to explain a little bit more. So, a Nazir means that he has to become fruma. Three things. We're going to explain why the three things. That for 30 days, he's not allowed to cut his hair. For 30 days, he cannot go to any cemetery. And for 30 years, for 30 days, he has to not cut his hair, not go to a cemetery, and the third thing is not to drink wine. You shouldn't drink wine, right? And we'll come back to that. But anyway, if a person sees a unchaste woman and that she had sinned, and it says that her thigh receded and her stomach became bigger, and she passed away on the spot in the right nearby, right by the Beis Hamikdash over there. So he says, as soon as if a person sees such a sight, right, he has to Nazir atzma min hayayin. He has to stay away from wine, because it must have been strong drink that could have brought her to this. It could be she was at a party, she got drunk, and other people got drunk with her, and they lost themselves. So he has to stay away from drinking for 30 days, right? So you just say the Moshel, and then we're going to come back to the Nazir. So why was it, if a person sees a reward and punishment, and sees the actual punishment that a person gets, so why is it necessary for the person not to drink wine? The person saw that crime does not pay. If you do crime, it's a person gets their punishment for it. So the famous Moshel parable is one of a person who, or many persons could be, that there was a little village, and this village, the people worked hard. At the end of the week, they got their paycheck, and on the way home, they used to go in for a drink, and after a while, there was a whole crowd of them that on the way home, they went into a bottle store, they bought themselves some drinks, they sat down at the table, they rested, and they got drunk. And the mayor of the town was most upset because the woman started complaining, right? It's you got to watch yourself. I even heard, I remember when I was in South Africa, that there was a shul, there was a place where the guys, they went to shul, they were good, and after shul they had a schnapps, and then they started enjoying the schnapps a little bit too much, and when they came home a couple of hours later, their eyes were red and they weren't walking straight, and the wives, some people came to complain to see what they can do about it, So sometimes you got to watch it. Even you do the right things, you go to shul, and you sure it's nice to have a schnapps, but sometimes people feel it's a mitzvah to finish the bottle, So that's something which is not quite good. So the mayor of the town, brought them all one Sunday afternoon, told them all to come to the grand stadium over there, where they used to play soccer, whatever it is. And it happened to be a rainy day, and it was the pitch, and it was very wet. And there was one person who happened to be known to be a good drinker, and they filled him up with wine until he staggered into the stadium, and they led him in right into the middle. The guy got up, walked a little bit, got up, walked a little bit. Like I say, it was raining, it was wet, and it was a little bit muddy. And anyway, it didn't look like a good sight. So suddenly somebody ran towards him and started whispering in his ear. So the major said, quickly take a tape recorder and go listen to what the guy has to say. Probably he thought that maybe it was a good friend or maybe a brother, and the guys were making a spectacle of himself. So they taped it, and he says, "Okay, now I want you to tape what he did, what was said from this fella to the guy who was waddling in the mud." And then it says, "Hey, Chaim, boy, where did you get such good whiskey that really put you out?" And you say, in other words, that we always say crime doesn't pay, but there's always smart Alex that they think they're a little bit better. You see, they're able to control themselves better. So they'll do the crime, they'll get onkushnozzled, but they'll know when to stop. You know what I mean? That they shouldn't bring any disfavor to them or to their family. And so he says that the Mori says no, that if anybody sees this spectacle of a woman, an unchaste woman, so then quickly become a Nazir, right? Because one of the laws of a Nazir is not to drink wine, and that the person has to hold off and and realize that it may be permissible, but it doesn't mean that you have to drink so much that you really can't control yourself. That's a very, very beautiful Moshe. And that's true. It's interesting. I was learning with my son this morning, and he mentioned, or the other day when we were going over it, he says that the Rambam says that if there is a woman that had done incorrect and was brought to the Beth Din, it's better maybe they should invite other people from the community to see what happened, to see that if she continues to to hold on to what she that she didn't know anything, and she was tested and found to be um, incorrect, and she loses it. So then the halacha is that these women should see it and they should stay away. So sometimes it's good to see and to know to stay away. And like we said, but there's always that chance of the person who says crime doesn't pay because the other person wasn't smart enough. You're a person, you robbed the bank, and for 1 week he got away with $1 million, and eventually they caught up with him. So sometimes people will say, look, he robbed the bank. The guy can think I could do the same thing in a way that they won't catch me, and I'll be rich. But just like the first guy who was caught, second guy could also get caught. So it's always better to become a Nazir. So now it's very interesting that having you look at the Pasha, the Torah speaks about Nazir, that there is such a conception. What does it mean, a Nazir? So it means that he accepts upon himself um, to be a Nazir, right? Nazir means to stay away from certain things, and Nazir means a crown. In other words, that it could be that a person is pretty low, and sometimes people are low and they're upset, so they take a start drinking, and he faces and go to all the minyanim, and he started not learning, and he just was dejected. And so the Gemara says that if that happens to a person, he can accept himself in Nazirut, to be a Nazir, and it'll give him a lift. So what is a lift? So lift was the three things which we mentioned, that a person should not drink wine, should not cut his hair, and not go into a cemetery. So why these three things? Let's say a few things. So the three things is that we were mentioned, we talked about it, things which one could understand, but the mission, the Mikas Chinuch, the very famous sefer, which somebody forgot his name, but the name is written, that it's used all the time when he takes the 630 mitzvahs and he gives reasons for the mitzvahs, right? Not that we know all the reasons, we certainly don't know, but he did it on behalf of his son, and it became a very famous book. So he says, for instance, that he shouldn't go into a cemetery. So, and because when a person goes into a cemetery, person can become more depressed. A person sees graves, a person goes to a relative's grave, and the person feels down. And so we're trying to build this person up. We're talking about a person who needs a lift. So in order to have a lift, so the Torah tells us three things he has to do. So the first one we mentioned is that he shouldn't go to a cemetery, because it brings a person to be more morbid. Person may see a good friend, that died earlier than him, and he remembers it, and he sees where the person is, right? So to go, we don't want the person to fall into depression. So we that's one thing he has to do. Second thing is that he has to grow his hair for 30 days. So also, when a person doesn't shave, person doesn't cut his hair, and it grows, and it's overgrown, so it doesn't look nice, right? So therefore, person must stay away from tumah, from impurity, right? Because also graveyard you have to wash your hands after it, Nowadays, in order to eat meat from the base of Mikdash, when you're allowed, or let's say the Korban Pesach, the Paschal lamb, so then for sure a person can is not allowed to partake of anything which is holy, right? So he shouldn't, let's say, go to the graveyard because of that. He also shouldn't cannot eat. He has to keep himself pure. That if he is something a korban like that, he is permissible to eat, and then like we said, that he has to allow his hair to grow. So because when you allow your hair to grow, so and you don't look so good, so you don't fall into a depression, but it takes away your gaiva, right? Gaiva means your haughtiness. If a person just had a nice haircut and had a good shower afterwards, person feels good. His beard, his moustache, his face is all glowing and it's neat and everything. So he feels good. So he's deprived of that for 30 days. And then the third thing is that the person is not allowed to drink wine because, well, what leads to levity, that a person should, take things easy and do things which is incorrect, is when it's a little bit chicer, right? And sometimes and the Gemara says, "Nichnas yayin yotza so yesod." If wine goes into a person's body, out comes all his secrets because he's not in control, right? So it's when and the wine could be, whiskey, other things also, anything which is going to bring him to be not sober. So then if he's not sober, he does the wrong things. So those are the three things. Now, I was thinking of those thinkings. You see that the Rabbi Shem prescribes a human being, that sometimes a human being goes through a difficult time and he needs a push, right? So if he keeps this, and not for a long time, so this is only 30 days. 30 days is not saying 6 months or a year like that, right? It's 30 days. You can actually manage it. But for those 30 days, there may be reasons that all these three things, he missed the party, he missed going to visit, unfortunately somebody had passed away, or he felt he looked in the mirror and he looked at his face and he's looked a little bit shabby, right? So he wanted to feel good. So all these things it's like a quick fix, right? To bring him back on the path. And that's why if he keeps all three, so then Nazir is like mentioned the Meforshim, the commentaries, what I mentioned is staying away from things which is incorrect, but it's also, the word Nazir means a crown. He puts a crown on his head, right? He becomes like a better person for those 30 days. Very, very interesting is that when he brings his sacrifices, one of the sacrifices is a chatat, is a sin offering. So the Mora asks, why should he bring a sin offering? Lechori was trying to do something good. So why the sin offering? So the Mora says that the sin offering is that because shitzir atzmo min hayayin, that he hurt himself by not drinking wine. He says, Hashem gave us wine, and Hashem wants us to enjoy the wine, to have wine at Kiddush, wine for a good occasion. But of course, a person shouldn't go in overabundance. But for those 30 days, it's a big problem with Kiddush. His wife has to make Kiddush, or maybe coffee is good enough, $50, all these things. You see that it is that you can't partake of it. So the Torah so she tziratzma that it hurts him a little bit, hurts him, and so therefore at the end of it he has to bring a chatat, is a sin offering, and by bringing a sin offering, it takes away that blemish of becoming a Nazir. It's interesting that that he's hitting two levels. One level of withholding things from him, and which is Hashem doesn't want us to do that, but at the same time, another level of becoming a Nazir, to be able to put a crown on his head, because he's doing more than most people and he's taking himself in hand. So I think it's fantastic, this idea of a Nazir. And that's why the two portions come one after the other. A person sees evil or something which is wrong, so he should become a Nazir in order to guard himself for falling into such a rut and thinking that, he, like we said with the mashal, with that picture of a drunk, that, maybe he can manage to do the right thing and not fall into that which is incorrect. So those are the two parshiot. And just for 5 minutes, I'd like to add, it's 1:45 already, but I also to mention that one of the dayonim in the times of Shoftim, in the times of the judges, after Yehoshua had died, Moshe had died in the desert, and Yeshua died in Eretz Yisrael, and then there were different dayonim, which in Judges, in the book of Judges, Shoftim, one of the first books of the Tanakh after the Torah, and Shimshon was that type of a person. It's interesting that the Meforshim explain that his wife and his mother was a special person, because the kedusha, the holiness, and that which Pinchas had didn't come after he was going to high school and he went to gym, and he did a lot of weights and things like that he became a gibor, right? And when did it happen? It happened from the womb, straight away, that he had his mother bore him, and she seems that she was a very pious woman, because the malach, the angel that came from Hashem to tell Shimshon that he was going to be special, came to the mother, and once, and it came to the mother again, and it was from her womb that he became like that. So it's very interesting that his strength didn't come from being a big athlete. It became from not drinking wine, not going to, and because he was from birth, he was a Shimshon. It wasn't a 30-day wonder. He grew up, and that's why he had a lot of hair, and he had a lot of, and he kept away from wine, and he kept away from going to graves, and he was strength, and they say that some people finished the job, in his generation, but he didn't finish the job of killing off all the Philistines, but caused them a lot of trouble. And that's the famous scene at the end of his life when he had told Delilah that his strength lay in his hair, and she shaved him, and he woke up in the morning and he didn't have the strength of a Samson. He had the strength of a normal person, and they made fun of him, and they put him tied to 2 pillars, and then he called out to Hashem. And meanwhile, his hair was growing, and Hashem gave him his strength, and he pulled it down and managed to kill a lot of the Plishtim who were causing so much anguish and trouble to Bnei Yisrael. So that was one of the very famous people. He was in our times, who died not very long ago. He was the father of Rabbi Goren, who took a Sefer Torah and ran with the soldiers into the Temple Mount, not upstairs, but into the courtyard, and they conquered the Kosel Amarovi, which thousands upon thousands of people go visit, especially during the times of Yom Tovim, after the Yom Tov, during the Yom Tov, they say there was thousands upon thousands of people. People gave him food to eat, and they did Yishmerecho and watch over you. Sometimes Hashem will give you possession, He will give you things, but Yishmerecho, He will take care of you. The second, it says, Yair Hashem panav elecho bichoneko. Hashem will shine His face upon you and give you chayin. Now, chayin is to be liked, to have grace, that people like the person. So Yivrecha Hashem, Yishmerecha, Yair Hashem will light up His face on you, Yichuneko, and give you chayin. So we once explained, which is very, very beautiful, that where do you find the word chayin in a verse? It says in Dvarim, Va'et Chanan, I pray to Hashem, chayin, to give me chayin. And over there, Rashi explains, is matnat chinam, that I should have a present for nothing. In other words, even if I'm not fitting for what I ask for, Hashem, please give it to me anyway. So beautiful. And so, Yivrecha Mishmerecha, Yar Hashem Panav Elecha, Bikunecha, Yisa Hashem Panav Elecha, and a person should pick up his face to you and give you peace. That the most important thing is peace. And when a person's face down means they're talking to you. They don't want to do anything with you. You say, Yisa Hashem, raise your face, look at me, allow me to look at you, as if, of course, to pray for you. So Hashem should do that and give you shalom. And there's nothing important than peace. And we know that nowadays here in Eretz Israel and in Kurs Oretz, that there's continuous war, which is going on and on for nearly October. It's going to be 2 years. And you imagine 2 years on a war, and who knows when things are going to stop. And so we pray to Hashem, Yosem L'chol Shalom. Hashem should lift up His faces to us, in other words, take note of us and grant us peace. And so that's a beautiful way to end. This is also in this week's Parsha. So this Parsha, when you go to Shul, Parsha's Nosah, it's chock-a-block full of beautiful ideas, and it's a shame that we will all, do the right thing. Not to try and become a Nazir nowadays, because if you do it in an established way, so then you have to bring sacrifices. We don't have sacrifices nowadays, but a person should just know themselves to what to do in abundance, what to do very little, like drinking or getting drunk or anything else like that. And we should all be blessed. And Mitzvah Shem and Israel should be blessed that all these wars should stop. Only Hashem will stop it all. And that and you should bring shalom, like it says, Hamavreches Amu Yisrael Bashalom. 3 times a day you say Hashem blesses us with peace. Okay, Shvar, thank you.